What's going on, 7th grade? So let's go ahead and let's get started with another lesson today in chapter 1. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the videos, you're getting the videos, the notes in your notebook. I haven't heard from many of you guys, so just kind of have to kind of assume that you're doing well and that you're understanding the material. If you have questions, email me or leave a comment underneath the video. That way I can get back to you and know what you are possibly struggling on. All right. Chapter 1, Lesson 5. Today we're going to focus on adding and subtracting real numbers. Guys, really this whole lesson, going to move very quickly today with it. Nothing new. A lot of the material in here should be reviewed from 7th grade, and some of it even dating as far back to review from kindergarten. So let's get started. So with us adding real numbers, you should remember from your notes last time that real numbers, guys, they go further than just these whole numbers. They include negative numbers, they include zero, they can include decimals, fractions, so really a lot of different things that can represent a real number. So we're going to be adding or subtracting anything that is a real number. Kind of to get us started here, we have the problem 3 plus 5. On these first three questions, guys, we're going to focus on creating a number line and really kind of seeing how this process works. And you need to be familiar with number line because even though you may not be able to show it on your homework for me to see, you may have some of these on those math excels to do, asking you which number line correctly shows 3 plus 5. So let's go ahead and let's show it. So I'm going to start by drawing a number line. And I'm going to start with just making several hash marks. Now my number line is always going to start with my first number. My first number is 3. So I'm going to start with a 3, and I'm just going to go by ones all the way to the right. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There you go. And then whenever I'm adding 5, that means I'm moving to the right 5. And again, I know a lot of this should be kind of redundant because it's something we already know how to do. But that's how the process works. I'm moving 5 directions to the right, so 3 plus 5 is equal to 8. Moving ahead, number 2. So this time we have a negative number that's introduced into our problem. So again, I'm going to draw my number line. Now on my number line, again, I'm going to start at 3. So 3 has to be in your number line somewhere. Now, because we're working with the negative 5, I already know that we're going to actually be going backwards on this one. So I'm going to kind of cheat my number line a little bit. All right, so I'm starting at 3 this time, and this time I'm adding a negative 5. So whenever I add negative 5, I'm not moving to the right, I'm actually moving to the left because we went to the right with a positive 5. Well, with a negative, we move in the opposite direction. So we're actually going to move to the left 5 spaces this time. So let's move 5 spaces to the left. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So when I do 3 plus negative 5, you get negative 2. So when we add a positive, we're moving to the right. We add a negative, we're moving to the left. What about if we have 2 negatives? Okay, well, nothing really changes here. Again, still creating my number line. Still going to begin this number line with my first number. My first number is negative 3. So I'm going to start this negative 3. And remember, whenever you create number lines, guys, when you go to the left, your negatives get smaller. When you go to the right, your numbers, they get larger. So don't forget that when you're creating your number line. This time I'm going to start at negative 3, and I'm adding that negative 5 again. So because I'm adding a negative, we're still going to the left, very much like we just did on number 2. The only difference between number 2 and 3, guys, is this starting position. Instead of starting at 3, I'm now starting at negative 3. So by adding negative 5, I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we can show that -3 plus -5 is equal to -8. And there you have it. So there are the answers to the first 3 problems. All right, let's get into a new, again, this shouldn't be a new concept, but a newer concept, and that is absolute value. And the definition for absolute value is it's the distance a number is from 0. So I have 2 absolute value problems already done for you. So I have the absolute value of 4. So these lines, guys, on either side of 4, those are what we call absolute value bars. So that's not 141. That is 4, and those are the bars on either side of it. And usually you draw them a little longer than the numbers to kind of separate what's a number and what's the absolute value bars. So if I have the absolute value of 4, that's going to be 4. If I have the absolute value of -4, it still is going to be equal to 4. So why is this? How come I'm getting 4 for both of these answers even though they're different? One's a positive and one's a negative. Well, that's because, guys, that definition, the distance a number is from 0. If I were to pinpoint 4 on my number line, how far is 4 from 0? It's 1, 2, 3. It's 4 spaces from 0. Now, we did move to the left, but absolute value, guys, it's always positive. And the reason it's always positive is because of this key word right here, distance. Distance is always positive. Now, what about this -4? So if I pinpoint -4 on my number line, I want to find how close is that to 0. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So both of these are going to have an absolute value of 4 because they're both 4 spaces from 0 on the number line. Guys, the best way of thinking about absolute value is the absolute value of a positive number is that same positive number. The absolute value of a negative number is that number in a positive form. So it's always going to be the same number, positive. All right, let's move ahead. We don't have very much left, so I have kind of a general rule of thumb for these next couple of problems, and these go along with that adding and subtracting of the real numbers. And this time we don't need to have a number line, but if it helps you to solve these, by all means. Your rules with these are, when signs are the same, meaning I have 2 positives or I have 2 negatives, you want to add and keep the sign. So if you're adding 2 positives together, add those 2 numbers together and keep that positive sign. Same thing with if I had a positive and if I had 2 negatives, add those numbers together and then keep the sign the same. Your next rule is when the signs are different. So this would be whenever you're adding or subtracting a positive and a negative. When those signs are different, subtract the 2 numbers and then take the sign of the bigger number. And we'll get into an example of that in our next couple of problems here. But those are your 2 rules. Let's go ahead and let's look at number 1, and let's kind of apply this one then. Real quick, guys, before we solve any of these, I'm not sure if you guys know what this is. This is what we call a calculator, and this would be the part of class where I make everybody say, ooh, and make everybody say, ah. All right, that's a calculator. You do not need to be using a calculator on any of these problems. I know I'm not there to look over your shoulder at home and make sure that you're solving these by hand, but these should all be problems that we're working out. If you are using one of these, machines, then you're not really learning a whole lot because it's doing everything for you and it's doing all your adding and subtracting for you. So there's really no need to use a calculator on this section. All right, let's look at this. -12 plus 7. That's my first one. So again, if I follow my rules here, I have a negative and a positive. Well, my signs are different, so I'm going to subtract the 2 numbers. So 12 minus 7. I'm not really going to worry about the signs in front. I'm just going to take the numbers themselves. So 12 minus 7. Every one of you knows 12 minus 7 is 5. Take the sign of the bigger number. Well, my bigger number is negative, so negative 5. There you have it. A little quicker way, guys, than maybe writing it out vertically and then solving or drawing a number line. So again, take your two numbers. Signs are different, so I'm going to subtract them. And then I'm going to take the sign of the bigger number. And 12 is bigger than 7. 12 is negative, so I'm going to put my negative symbol with my 5 then. Let's look at number 2. Negative 18 plus negative 2. This time, signs are the same. Both 18 and 2, they have a negative with them, so those signs are the same. So again, this next step where we add, I'm not really focusing on the signs in front of those numbers. So 18 plus 2 is going to be equal to 20. Keep the sign. Well, my sign is negative, so I'm going to keep it. So negative 20. There you have it. Guys, this rule is not particularly in your book, but it works every time. It makes it a little simpler for us on solving some of these. Let's look at number 3. Negative 4.8 plus 9.5. All right, signs are different, so I'm going to subtract. So I'm going to take 9.5, 4.8. Again, I don't want you using a calculator, so I'm going to subtract these two. 5 minus 8, can't do. Cross my 9 out, carry your 8. 5 becomes a 15. 15 minus 8 is 7. Bring your decimal straight down. 8 minus 4, 4. So when I do subtract these, I get 4.7. Take the sign of the bigger number. 9.5 is bigger than 4.8. 9.5 is positive. So there you have it. 4.7. It's going to stay positive. Very good. Let's go through. I've got 3 more for us, and then we're going to wrap this lesson up. Again, this should be nothing new. Let's look at number 4. I've got this time, guys, it's a subtraction problem to begin with. On 1, 2, and 3 on the previous page, those numbers were separated with an addition symbol. Number 4, these two numbers are separated with a subtraction symbol. Well, it's really nothing different, okay? I still want to solve this just like we did with the addition problems. Now, with this problem in particular, negative 8 minus negative 13. Anytime we have minus a negative, that turns into a positive and a positive. So my new problem now is negative 8 plus 13. And this always happens when you're minusing a negative. So now I've got two numbers, different signs. One is positive, one is negative. Okay, when they're different, you take the difference. So you subtract. So 13 minus 8, we should all know is 5. Take the sign of the bigger number. 13 is bigger than 8. 13 is positive. So my answer is 5. And again, hopefully nobody is using their calculator, but if you do type that one on in and maybe you don't believe me, there you have it. Negative 8 minus negative 13. And again, it's because this minus and negative turns into a plus and a plus, two positives. Let's look at number 5. 9 minus 12. So for this problem, I've got one positive, and this minus 12, it acts as a negative. So my 12 really is negative here. So 9 minus 12. So I've got a positive and a negative. So I'm going to subtract the two numbers. So that's going to be 3. 12 minus 9, subtract the two numbers, 3. Take the sign of the larger number. 12 is larger. 12 is negative. So negative 3. Last question, number 6. So guys, with number 6, I added a couple extra numbers here. We're going to put a lot of this together. So I've got 0 minus 25 plus 16 minus 47 plus 29. And guys, with number 6, you can't just jump around and start wherever you want in this problem. Let's say, for example, this 25 plus 16. Well, maybe you really like addition, so you want to do all your addition first. You can't do that, and that's because of the order of operations. You have to work this from left to right in order that it is, because with addition and subtraction, we do all those kind of as the same step in the order of operations. So I'm going to conquer this first problem, 0 minus 25. 0 minus 25, that's going to give me negative 25. And then I'm going to go through and I'm going to just rewrite the rest of my problem. And the reason it makes negative 25, well, I got a positive 0, negative 25, signs are different, you subtract them. 25 minus 0, take the sign of the larger number, negative, negative. All right, left to right, so negative 25 plus 16. Signs are different, so I'm still going to subtract. This time if I subtract 25 minus 16, I get 9. Take the sign of the larger number, 25 is larger, 25 is negative, so negative 9. So negative 9 minus 47 plus 29. All right. Again, left to right, negative 9 minus 47. That's my next step. Signs here are the same, so I'm going to add these two numbers together. So when I add them, I get 56. Keep the sign, negative. So negative 56 plus 29. Guys, very important, you keep your signs on each step. These questions will be most commonly missed. Maybe you turn this into a plus, but then you messed your whole problem up. So make sure you copy it all down right as well. Now we're down to our final step. Negative 56 plus 29. Signs here are different, so I am going to subtract them. So 56 minus 29. When you do subtract, you get 27. Take the sign of the larger number. 56 is larger. Negative 27. And there you have it, guys. There you go. Adding and subtracting real numbers. Again, nothing too big for you guys. A lot of the stuff we have already done. If you have any questions, any comments, any concerns, let me know. Thanks, guys.